Welcome back. 8:13 crab season in full swing around Western Washington. And this summer, scientists have detected new sightings of the invasive European green crab along the Hood Canal.
Yeah, and joining us to talk about this is Chase Gunnell. You are communications manager at the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Chase, good morning. Thank you for being here. Right out of the gate, can you tell us a little bit more about this green crab? What is making this such a menace at this point?
Yeah, thank you for having me. The European green crab is an invasive species. They're native to Western Europe, like the name says. They've been here in the Pacific Northwest for a little over 20 years now. But with this warmer weather we've been seeing the last few years, these warmer summers, we've seen a real growth in this invasive crab, and it's a concern for our ecosystem and some of our native species.
We want to talk about the taste, Adam. You brought up this great question. How do they taste? Not great.
Not great. As you can see, these are pretty small crabs compared to the native Dungeness and red rock crabs that we really enjoy. I will say that here in Washington, we're not encouraging the public to go out and catch and cook them just because issues have arose with misidentification of some of our native crabs. But my colleagues on the East Coast would say that they're a lot of shell, not very much meat, and nowhere near as delicious as some of our other crab species.
That was really, is this crab here, is this kind of about their average size right here?
That's actually a big one. That's something that really surprises people, is how small these crabs are. These are actually what's called shore crabs, so they live right in along the shore in the shallow intertidal water. They're not usually out in that deeper water where we might go crab for Dungeness, and they don't get very big. They're no bigger than about 4 inches across.
Right. I mean, just looking at this, the size of my palm, usually when I'm out measuring a Dungeness, 6 1/4 is where we need to be for that. That's a big crab compared to this guy. I mean, that's
absolutely.
I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest.
And some of them could be orange, to your point, like this one here.
That's exactly right. Color is not always a good way to identify the European green crab. They can be orange, they can be yellow, they can be brown. The way we ask folks to identify them is these 5 spines on either side of their shell. None of our native crab species have 5 spines, and when you look at the green crab, there's some pretty distinct spines there that help identify them.
Fascinating.
So you're saying also the state's taking some proactive measures to help track and kind of track these guys as well. What about the efforts or what the steps if these steps aren't taken?
Yeah, we've been really thankful that the Washington State Legislature has given Department of Fish and Wildlife, a number of the Native American tribes, and other partners like University of Washington resources to go out and trap and monitor for these invasive crabs. We're really worried about the impact these crabs could have on our native shellfish like Dungeness, also clams and oysters. They can eat up to 40 small clams a day, and we love our clams. We want to eat them. They can also have a big impact on eelgrass, which is an important piece of the marine environment for everything from forage fish to salmon to southern resident orca whales that eat those salmon. And so all the work that we've put into restoring Puget Sound and our local ecosystems, this is an invasive species that could literally undermine that work. And so it's really important that we get out and try to trap their numbers down to a level where they're not having an impact.
What are the chances that they'll spread into Puget Sound? What's the risk? And also, what's working in our favor in Puget Sound?
Yeah, so there is a risk. We've been seeing some new detections this summer in northern Hood Canal, as you noted, in the Port Gamble area, as well as over by Port Ludlow. We're grateful that our teams, as well as our partners, are out there trapping so we can get on those detections early, and then we can really follow up with heavy trapping to try to stop their spread south into Puget Sound. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't expect to be able to eradicate this invasive species. There's just too many of them out on the coast and down in Oregon and California. But we think we can minimize the risk by keeping their numbers at a really low level where they're not hurting either our local economy, like shellfish growers, the environment, and the recreational activities that we prize, like going out and catching Dungeness crabs.
So is it somewhat tidal that kind of flushes them out? Is that what we see?
Yeah, and that's, I think, something that is working to our favor. Is there's when you look at the currents of Puget Sound, you have all these freshwater rivers that are flowing in. The dominant current is out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca and out to the ocean. And that does seem to be working in our favor with the European green crabs and slowing their spread south into Puget Sound itself. Unfortunately, that same current is hurting the South Puget Sound Dungeness crab populations, where those populations have been very low for the last decade or more. We've had to close crabbing in areas around Tacoma, and particularly south of Tacoma Narrows, and that population is quite slow to rebuild or to have recruitment, is what we call it. to rebuild their numbers in South Puget Sound of Dungeness crabs. So that outbound current, good for keeping European green crabs at bay, or at least slowing their spread, but seems to be impacting our Dungeness crabs and helping slow the rebuild of their population in the South Sound.
I was wondering about that. My friends to the south have been wondering, when are we going to get our crabbing back? So
Tough.
Good crabbing up in North Puget Sound lately. Been hearing some really good reports of Dungeness crab around Whidbey Island, but unfortunately not so good down the South Sound.
Oh my gosh, fascinating insights. Chase Gunnell, Communications Manager with Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. Chase, you were awesome. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Boo to the green crab. We'll go ahead and send it back to you.